Well, it seems like every year now that Disney and Pixar are dropping movies almost like in a great fashion. So I just wonder what's going on in the Disney lineup to where they decide that Pixar needs to drop a movie every year now, or at least it seems that way in my opinion.
What's going on, everybody? This your boy King Jerm, one half of Poddin Saved Our Marriage, and I want to welcome you to Sparrows Under Review, where every take is examined and nothing escapes the spotlight. Hosted by Stacey and JR, movies, food, relationships, and culture are put under the microscope with bold opinions and real perspective. No shortcuts, no flybys. This is Sparrows Under Review. So when you get through listening to this episode, come check us out each and every Friday on any DSP.
Howdy, everybody. It's me, JR. I am back again. This will be another solo run. The group hadn't broke up or anything like that. Just some creative differences. When I'm ready to record, I'm ready to record, and when she's not ready to record, she's not going to record. And I'm not going to hold you guys up. 2026, an interesting year that we've had thus far. Walt Disney, mainly Pixar Animated Studios, has come along with a movie called Hoppers. Now, honestly, this movie came to me in its streaming form, digital release. In this movie, I had heard about it. We actually spoke about it in an earlier 2026 episode, and it being one of the movies that we wanted to cover, as far as saying that we would be excited for it. It was this movie and The Goat, and animated features and computer generated movies grab my fancy simply because it's animation, but it takes a lot to get it going. So director on this movie, shout out to Daniel Chang. And loosely, I want to say this: every star inside of this movie made this movie amazing. What caught me with this movie is you cannot just sit in the very beginning. You can't pick a cell phone up. You can't do that kind of stuff and enjoy this movie. You have to give this movie your full attention. I watched this movie. So one thing we'll do real quick, as of this far right now in this year, we're talking April 28th. This is the fourth highest grossing film of 2026. And the reason that I do the box office numbers first, because it makes sense. This movie had a budget of 150 million. Its box office, and listen to this. This is box office before it's streaming or even out. Like, it's only been out as of today. It came out Tuesday at 12 a.m. You're getting this review at 8:39 p.m. Its box office was $375 million. Now, in perspective to some other companies and things like that, I can say Lionsgate lost that much money in like 6 or 7 movies in the first quarter of this year. So to see Disney kind of do this and Pixar do this with this movie, it worked out there. And shout out to SZA for the song, the end credit song, "Save the Day." She's been amazing when it's been coming to these soundtracks and being involved in this kind of area. So amazing thing for getting that bag there. Now this movie did come out in the United States March 6th, 2026. And like I said, today is April 28th. And going into this movie has like it's a wild story. Like I said, I was sitting there and Stacey was watching it with me, and I was trying to figure out like what was going on, and she kept badgering me like, "Hey, don't ruin the movie." And I wasn't necessarily trying to ruin it, but like I thought that I could figure out the plot before it even goes on. And this movie here follows Mabel Tanaka, and it tells about her childhood and with her growing up with her grandmother in a nearby forest glade with wild animals. And it ties in all kinds of themes about the government, the unrest that goes along with that. And it really makes it gives you an activist feeling. And with an activist feeling, you kind of like, whoa, this movie is kind of geared towards a teenage audience. Younger kids may get into it, but it's got more of a edgier adult, a teenager adult. Like, let's get in here and let's help out with the world. And the ensemble inside this movie were amazing when it comes to how everything went on. Mabel's story uh, goes into about how she really cares about the nature and things like that. And the deeper you get inside of her nature feeling, that you get deeper into the root of this movie, and you see that there's a little bit of neglect that has happened to this young lady, be it from her parents to the misfortune of losing her grandmother, and those central themes there carry out through the movie. And then you find out the plot twist in this movie. You find out how she becomes a beaver. And I'm not going to spoil that for you, but once you figure out or find out how she becomes a beaver, that's what makes this really amazing. It doesn't get too much into the science of how it's done, but the way it's set up, it kind of gives you like a nutty professor type feel when it comes to the science portion there. And then she gets involved with the kingdom, and the kingdom that you deal with here, she gets, the mammal King George. Her and him build a rapport, and the most hilarious quote that I heard in this is the insect queen calls Mabel the unlikable beaver, and for some reason that struck me. It made me feel like, whoa, I want to just laugh, and I laughed at that section. And the monarchies inside this movie are the insect, amphibian, fish, reptile, and birds. And each one is represented by an individual in a voice that will be familiar to you. And all of them are hysterical, and they all have plots to them. The insect section of this monarchy will be a problem in this movie. A young man named Titus, you will find out that he is the villain or the antagonist in this movie. Um, I like how this movie kind of does like a little flip thing here with how the villains go, because the one person you think is going to be the villain ends up becoming a semi coward, and then pretty good steward towards the end of the movie. And those are the things like, with that kind of writing and dynamic, those are the things that I look for inside of a movie personally, me. And one thing I want to say before I go into the scoring of this movie or anything like that, one thing that I've noticed in scoring for people and how people score movies and things like that, I've noticed when people review movies outside of like what Stacey and I do and what other reviewers do in podcasts, the reviewers that you deal with on the internet review based the statistics and things like that. Because the numbers that this movie got um were kind of wild. And let me get down to that stuff. The great old and trusty Wikipedia is at my service. So box office, it did its amazing numbers. What was it here? What was it here? Critical response. Rotten Tomato gave this a 94 out of 220. So let's do this here. This is a Disney Pixar movie, and I'm kind of concerned that the people involved with this, like the reviewers, were getting paid or something. The movie's funny, but it can always be funny as another movie that I seen. It was an Illumination movie. It was about the ducks. We covered it in a few previous episodes. Excuse me for that missing my head there. Now let's go to Metacritic. Metacritic gave this a 73 out of 100 based on 46 critics. Cinema Score gave this an A. Neil Meno from RobertEbert.com gave this film 4 stars out of 4. Pixar at its very best. It has charm, a touch of magic, but is grounded and literal. It gets comparisons to Finding Nemo. And one person I like from the rap wrote that Hopper isn't just James Cameron's Avatar if it had feelings. It's also James Cameron's Avatar if it was good. And I will praise the movie, but going back to the other movie that I was talking about, the Illumination movie, this was a good movie. And I guess if you're putting it on par with what's come out thus far in the year, I haven't seen the Michael Jackson movie, so you can't really do a comparison there, but being the fourth highest grossing movie thus far this year, and, at the end of the day, this is a Pixar movie. Um, It it had an appearance at the Super Bowl. It was on point and did everything it was supposed to as a movie. And that's one thing that when you can do that kind of stuff, that's when it all works out for you. And shout out to Meryl Streep for being in this too. But the thing here is that like it worked out, and when it works out like that, that's when you know the critics come out. So let me look at this real quick. All right, so fourth highest grossing film, Super Mario Galaxy is number one. Pegasus 3 is number two. Project Hail Mary is number three. Hoppers is number four. Number five is Worthington Heights. Michael's number six. Scream 7 is number seven. Number eight is, there's a tie for number 8 through 10. It's Blades of the Guardians, Scare Out, and some kind of movie called Duranda, The Revenge. So clearly, what we're seeing at the top with number 1 through 4, you see that a animated movie and another animated movie kind of round out your top four. And Wuthering Heights was a great movie, but I want to say what I said. And then the rating of Super Mario. So really, you kind of just gotta go with that. If you watch this movie, Pixar made a great movie. They didn't do anything wrong here. They sat here, they sat out, made a well thought out movie. It wasn't rushed. It just felt like something you can get into. You can get the children involved. I'm not saying the younger group. The younger group is the only group that I don't see this capitalizing with because it just doesn't run with them, in my opinion. But remember, I'm just a reviewer, just someone just like you all that watches movies and people pay attention to my selections. So just be careful with the younger audience. They're gonna like the cute little jokes and the way that the animals are displaced in this and then moved around and then replaced and they get rehomed to a degree. So, it has some touchy subjects with the environment. So you can teach your kids something. It's a learning lesson that can happen here. But like always, I'll say this. Great movie. Was a great experience that I had. Like I said, me and Stacey sat down and watched it because of her timing and what she has going on right now in life. She did not make it to this interview. She will be back in future episodes. But I just want to say this right here. Thank you all for listening to Sparrows Under Review. I'm JR, and I'm going to sign off here. But let me tell you this: we have an amazing setup on Threads. We're interactive. We want to know what you like, what else you want to cover, because we've covered a string of movies, and I want to get you all more involved and more in depth with what we have going on here. So once again, I'm just going to go ahead and sign off here, and I want to thank you all for the encouragement and the way that you have helped me through my recovery and everything else that's been going on with me personally outside of this. And remember, a movie's a movie is what you want to watch.